Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Oh, hi, folks. I want to laugh. If I don't laugh, I might cry. We are all witnessing what is happening, right? We all see it. We all know it. This is amazing that this is happening. I've always said that President Trump, I said it before, I said it 1,000 times. President Trump is treated like a black man, or like black folks, or how white liberals treat black folks. I should say it that way. It's because they're against the person. It's not the principle, it's the person. They cannot stand, white liberals / the Democrat Party can't stand Trump. So no matter what the issue is, no matter what the principle is, they're going to twist it and be against him, no matter what it is. That's like when I was working at, or would submit my written articles, I was trying to get on to Huffington Post. It didn't matter the article or the substance, or how well written, or how relevant, when I worked at Court TV. It's like, we are against you no matter what. We're saying no. The substance doesn't matter. It's a no. It's a no-go. You're not advancing. We're not going to give you a break. No way. That's how Trump is treated. I don't care what the issue is. Well, thank goodness for his legal team. But for Trump's legal team and the American people, I don't know where we'd be. Trump has chutzpah, and he would be by himself, because everyone else except the American people, or should I say half the electorate, half of American voters are for Trump. They see what's going on. But the establishment, the media, bureaucrats, even the ABC, the three alphabet agencies, they're all against. And then you even have rhinos, Republicans, and judges, the institutions against Trump. But the American people, half the American people, are still Trump supporters. I just heard one data point. I think it was written in the Blaze article, that 81% of independent voters voted for Biden. 81%. Oh, but this is the kicker. But only where it mattered. Only in the battleground counties, real specific, because you got the battleground states and then you have the battleground counties in those states. But only where it mattered. Nationwide, oh no, Biden underperformed. But only where it mattered did Biden overperform. You see, this is like tricky business. This isn't tricky business. This is dirty business. And this is how the Democratic Party has always been. They will do anything to win, anything for power. Well, I have a guest. I'm going to bring her on. I'm going to bring her on about 7:30 at the half hour, and it's a wonderful guest, Dr. Linda Tarver. Yes, and she was in the Michigan hearing. Now, this is another thing I want to mention. I watched all 4 hearings. Yeah, 4: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia. Yeah, I watched all 4. And then also the Amistad Project is involved, and they had a press conference. The Amistad Project had a press conference, and that was the conference where they had the truck driver, the USPS, the postal worker truck driver, who had driven 250,000 ballots across state lines from New York to Pennsylvania. Remember that? So these 4 hearings, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia, were only shown on One American News, and later you got some of it on Newsmax. But I watched all of those hearings, all four, plus the press conference that the Amistad Project delivered on One American News. Fox, CNN and MSNBC didn't cover them. C-SPAN didn't cover them. C-SPAN didn't even cover the hearings. C-SPAN covered the rally that Trump gave last night, but they didn't cover the hearings. Yeah. So the majority of TV watchers do not watch One American News, although they're getting much more viewership than before. Because why? Because Fox News is a turncoat. They're part of the problem too. We find out. When did we find out? On election night. Yes. It was. I mean, I think we were all just like, what the heck was going on election night? Were we not? Because when Trump was ahead, I've gone over this before. When Trump was ahead in all those battleground states, and then they said, I think Pennsylvania. Oh, and they had called Florida. I've gone over this before. They called Florida immediately, soon. They eventually called Ohio, but they wouldn't call. They called North Carolina. They wouldn't call Virginia, and they wouldn't call, what was the other state? Maybe Pennsylvania or something. And we were all waiting. It's like, why aren't they calling Pennsylvania? I think they even called California. You guys watched it. You know what went down. And that's when we all like switch. It's like, what the heck is going on? And Brett Baer said some things that were weird. We were all like, what? What? So then they called the race for Biden. And when we woke up the next morning, and then we're like, we're not watching Fox anymore. What? And they haven't gotten any better. In fact, they've gotten worse. They've remained steadfast in their position. In fact, I saw on Twitter today that Chris Wallace insisted, I think it was, I don't know who it was, he insisted that someone call Biden, instead of vice president, that they call him, he's president-elect. I saw that on Twitter. So Fox has gotten bad, and One American News and Newsmax is the only place to go to get information about this voting fraud, right? Excuse me, I just sneezed. Sorry. So One American News and Newsmax is the only place you can go to get information about what's going on regarding this election fraud. The other thing that this morning, I did turn on Washington Journal, only out of habit, but I've sort of like distanced myself from that show also out of sheer disappointment and frustration. But they did actually have the question, has Trump proved voter fraud? I think that question is misplaced. It's not proper to ask, did he prove? Trump doesn't have a obligation to prove voter fraud. The court, his legal team must prove voter fraud in the courts. The issue is, have the American people been persuaded that there has been voter fraud based upon what they have learned, based upon what they have seen? Well, based upon what we have learned from the hearings, which were not aired on the other stations, but only One American News and Newsmax, yeah, we are persuaded. The people who watch those hearings are persuaded by the testimony given by those witnesses who swore on affidavits. We're persuaded, yeah, there was election fraud. We suspected on election night or election the next morning. We suspected it. And now we're persuaded that, yes, we can say with 100% certainty, yes, there was election fraud. Why? Because of evidence from the testimony. One of the data points is that it's mathematically impossible Did we see Dr. Shivas, Shiva? I can't remember if he gave testimony in Michigan. It was in Michigan or Arizona. I can't remember. Did you see his graph? Okay, he had a graph, and the graph represented how the votes were dispersed, right? So he can somehow reverse engineer that to say what was necessary to get in terms of votes, what was necessary in terms of votes to mirror this graph. And what would be necessary would be that the Democrats would have to vote at a rate of 720%, and Trump would be minus 30%. The votes would have to be at that level to reflect or to mirror the graph of votes, how they were dispersed. That is very persuasive, if not conclusive. But when you take all of the evidence, in fact, Giuliana said that he has more than 1,000 affidavits. When you take all of the evidence, the totality of circumstances, cumulatively, yes, you feel confident to say, definitively, they cheated. Definitively, they cheated. Now, another point that has come out is that I saw this on Twitter, is that, let's see, the Georgian court, the court in Georgia has ordered that the Trump team can analyze or examine 22 Dominion voting machines, 22 of them. And I think it was one particular county, let me see, in one particular county, Antrim County. Now, I saw this on Twitter, and I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of it, and I saw it earlier this morning, that they have found with a forensic audit of the Dominion voting machines, they have found that there's an algorithm, or rather malware, is placed on the machine that gives more weight to Biden than to Trump. Yeah. And then I saw this on social media, and so I haven't seen more of it. And until there's more of it, I won't say that that's definitively or that is absolutely certain. But I saw a tweet regarding that. And then I also saw an interview that said that the Dominion voting machines flipped 37 votes for Trump to Biden or something like that. Jenna Ellis came out and stated on Fox News that they have access to 22 Dominion voting machines, and they need about 48 hours to analyze and examine these machines and to come out with a definitive statement as to what's going on, rather with regards to the software or the algorithm or the malware or whatever, to come out and make a definitive statement as to what's going on. That's a good thing. We are going to wait. We're sitting on the edge of our seats, and we're waiting to see what's going down. Now, let's see. As I mentioned, my guest at the half hour is Dr. Lee Tarver. If you want to call in now and comment on what I'm talking about, you can do that, because when she comes on as a guest, I'm going to probably just let her talk. Maybe I'll take one or two calls while she's here. Who knows? I'll play it by ear. But the thing I wanted to say is that there were many women who gave very compelling hearing. Did you guys listen to it? I know I'm not the only one. I know Trump supporters are now watching One American News as opposed to Fox. Am I right? Yes. So many of you saw the hearing, yes. And there were many compelling women, yes. One woman was the blonde woman. Her hair was up on her head, and she wore glasses. In fact, I think she was an IT worker for Dominion, or like she was contracted. She's an IT professional, and she was contracted through an agency to work for Dominion. And her testimony was that Dominion people, the employees or workers, were putting ballots through several times. 3, 4, 5 times, scanning through the same ballots. Yes. There are many compelling women. The little Indian lady who's both her children are doctors. You remember her? And her husband was there with her. She gave testimony with her mask on, but I could still hear what she was saying. She knew the manual. Was she in Michigan? She knew that Michigan manual backwards and forwards, and she knew how it was being violated. Yes. Yes, she knew how the manual was being violated. There was another Indian, and there were three Indians, I think, Indian Americans, who were very grateful to be in America, who love America and appreciate America, and are aware of how electoral processes or the electoral systems in their country or other countries are rigged, and they appreciate our system. And so they were so disappointed when they saw what was going on, the intimidation that was given to poll watchers. That's one thing that one of them talked about, and how they would say, I'm going to make sure. And I remember they thought, because a lot of the black women who were working at the center thought, because the women were people of color, in quotation marks, that they were Democrat. They just assume that. You see how that identity politics business is a no-winner? It doesn't work, and it doesn't win. I see folks are calling in. Yeah, why don't I take some calls so that you can comment before Linda Tarver calls in at 7:30. So why don't I take a call just to hear what you have to say? Gregory, welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Hi, Gregory.
Is I've seen California as kind of taking a back seat with all this processing of the vote count. I heard a broadcast this morning that California was calling the vote in favor of Vice President Biden. But the point here is that if it does turn out that this Dominion software has had a significant effect on weighting the votes for both the president, what about the down-ticket elections? We had Joe Collins running against Maxine Waters, and also Eric Early running against Eric Schiff. Did that Dominion software also affect those contests? I heard one report, this was about a week or two ago, that Maxine Waters had beaten Joe Collins by a percent of 3-1, and then I'm hearing another report saying that the distance between Trump and Biden, it was such that it was kind of coming. They spread it enough so it didn't look too suspicious, but at least enough to where Biden could say, yes, I won the enough votes to get the electoral votes of that state. So I really wonder if there is going to be any effort to go into California and look at that Dominion software and see how the votes were being processed in California as well, because there's a chunk of votes that are what they call electoral college votes that are sitting here in the state. I think they're calling for Mr. Biden too prematurely, in my humble opinion.
Well,
what do you think, Ms. Wells?
Well, I've heard that they have seized the servers from this server farm in Frankfurt, Germany, and that server has the raw data, and it shows that Trump won California. I don't know if that's true. Lynn Wood, who is the attorney out of Georgia working on this along with Sidney Powell, said that he saw the map, the raw data. So maybe eventually we'll get to see that. I don't know. Last week I had Patrick Byrne on, and we talked about this stuff. And so we're going to see. We don't know. We're anticipating. We're waiting. But also, if within the next 48 hours, if Gina Ellis comes forward with information that there's fraud, that there's a rigged Dominion voting system, believe me, I think that that's going to be very relevant, and President Trump will execute a federal voting investigation that will include all 50 states, or at least the Department of Justice should do something like that if they come out in the next 48 hours saying that Dominion, because this has national security implications also. Not only will we weep for our own country, but we will be in a precarious position. I've heard rumors that China and Iran were interfering. I got that off of Sidney Powell's Twitter, you see. So this is serious business, folks. We're in a bad situation. There's the music. When we come back from the break, Angela, I'll take your call if you want to hang on before we bring on Dr. Lee Tarver. Dr. Lee Tarver spoke at the hearing in Michigan. She was one of the very compelling testimonies that she received. So when we come back from the break, I'll take your call, Angela, when we come back from the break, and we'll speak with Dr. Lee Tarver. We'll be right back. This is the Next Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells.
Heroes proved.
Oh, hi, this is Kathleen. Oh, I was going to say this is This is the Kathleen Wells Show. No, this is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells. Let me take a call now from Angela in Los Angeles. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi, Kathleen. I just wanted to say you're doing a really good job in educating us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to say I mailed a letter to the Secretary of State of California to not certify the election, and I gave a few reasons because I'm sure there's like tons of them, right? So that's how much I do believe Donald Trump won California, and I believe that even before you put out the information. And I just thought everything, I'm just like, there's no way. There is no way. I mean, the way they called it so fast, I'm going, no way. I go, maybe Biden got 25% of all the people in the United States, and Trump got the rest, 75.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll find out once we get these servers, and presumably the servers will have the raw data on it. This is what Dr. Linwood said. I mean, not Dr. Linwood, Attorney Linwood said from Georgia. Let's hope that's true. So we'll be finding out. Okay?
That's great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Let me welcome my guest, Dr. Lynn Tarver. She gave compelling testimony. Remember, I told you I listened to all 4 hearings, plus the press conference by the Amistad Project on One American News. I listened, yes. And I know Trump supporters also listen. Dr. Lynn Tarver gave compelling testimony at the Michigan hearing. Yes, very compelling. She's a psychologist, an organizational psychologist, and a former Michigan Civil Rights Commission, and retired from working with the state of Michigan. She's been working with the state of Michigan for 34 years. In fact, she was involved with she was a director of community affair and election integrity for the state of Michigan. So as I said, her testimony at the hearing, which we all heard on One American News, was very compelling. So I invited her on the Naked Truth Report. Dr. Tarver, welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you. I'm very happy to have you. So what is the question? What do you want to tell us? What has gone down in Michigan regarding the vote?
There's quite a few things that have gone down. I have highlighted in a lawsuit some of the things that have gone on in the state of Michigan, ballots that were mailed out to people who did not request them, more than 300,000 of them. We've had people whose votes did not count or register. We've had our Secretary of State, a Democrat, rock the vote with every Michigander's identification, driver's license information, social security number, address, eye color, name, date of birth, you name it, that was provided to a liberal activist group called Rock the Vote. Their entire file was given to them.
Oh, well, that's not good. That's not good, right?
That is such a breach of trust. We don't know what this group is. Once you provide them, this group was also able to update our qualified voter file. And so after the meeting, I shared with them the process for which there's some vulnerabilities in our election process, even to the point of ballot stuffing, ballot harvesting. The poll challengers were there to provide an option or remedy for election integrity. It is a crime not to allow poll challengers to do their job. we've had to take this Secretary of State to court. She has indicated that the 6 feet rule for COVID, this suggestion from the CDC, was supposed to be implemented for poll challengers not to be able to see what was going on. She lost that in the Court of Appeals here in Michigan. She signed the consent agreement and yet still did not ensure that these poll challengers could do their job. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's been going on. And, we're dealing with the certification without verification. We've had so many, 71% of the absentee ballots of the 500 precincts in Detroit, 71% of those have problems that they cannot be recounted. And that was the entire TCF Center here in Detroit, 71% of the work done in that building. We had thousands, some people have said 50,000 or more. Some people said 400,000 or more ballots were brought in at wee hours in the morning, well after the 8 o'clock cutoff. And this has been going on. That happened for real this year. We've got people who worked there. We've got Democrats who worked there. We've got the picture of the van that brought it. We've got the pictures of the driver, but the plate number. We know that this occurred, and yet Democrats in our state are pretending that there's no fraud whatsoever. And it's unfortunate that people will not believe the truth. Their hatred for Donald Trump trumps the truth. And, that piece of it is what's going on here. We have a hot mess going on in Michigan.
Right.
It is a hot mess.
Well, what is the status of your lawsuit at this point?
The status of the lawsuit that I'm involved in, which is one of many lawsuits that are put on. This is not the Trump lawsuit. This is not another organization. There are 2 women, myself and Angelica Johnson, and we have filed suit alleging and with credible evidence of the 500,000 ballots should be removed as a result of problems that we have been able to find based on the data files, the data dumps from the Secretary of State's office. But given that, and other improprieties and illegalities and fraud that we have found with evidence, it is with the Michigan Supreme Court. They're slow-walking it, in my opinion, that they should be moving on it faster. So because they are slow-walking our lawsuit that has reached their desk, we are petitioning the legislature, and we served the legislature on Friday with a summary of the lawsuit and asked them to take action. And they do have subpoena power. They have the ability to bring in the Secretary of State to demonstrate that the allegations there are not true, but they are true. So she's going to provide the affirmation, and they have the right to do that. They have a right to decertify the election, and so based on the allegations that we have, we want to make sure that they do that. We found our lawsuit.
Yeah, I mean, if the certification is shrouded or based upon fraud, it can be vitiated.
Yeah.
It can be, it should be. And I think that's the route that Sidney Powell is going also. Now, is this?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, you said this, is it a TCF Center?
Yes, the TCF Center in Detroit is where, because of the size of the city, it's our largest city in the state of Michigan. There are more than 500 precincts in the city of Detroit that you can go in and vote. We do have a very easy access to voting. We try to provide people access within their neighborhood. And so that's why we have so many voting precincts in Michigan. Some states use a county voting system, 1 or 2 in a county, but we have in your neighborhood. So there was over 500 walk in either at a church community center or at a school that you could go in and vote. Well, those absentee ballots for those neighborhoods go to one location. and 500 precincts of absentee ballots and our military and overseas ballots, they all go to the TCF Center in Detroit. That is where the counting of those absentee ballots are meaningful. And that's the area where if you are going to try to steal an election, you can't put 2,000 or 50,000 people in a small precinct where there's not that many people living.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to do it through the absentee voting. And so that's where the fraud and the ballot stuffing and rerunning of ballots occurred, as testified by the witnesses there. And some people think that these are circumstantial evidence or hearsay. This is direct evidence for people who were actually there, the people who did not get kicked out, the people who did participate in it, witnesses that were whistleblowers now. They were participants in the fraud, and now they've turned into whistleblowers. That's the evidence that we have of what happened. We've had people see hundreds of ballots run through multiple times. One of the things that I've asked for is the opening of the ballot box, open the boxes. And one thing that we will find if we are able to open the boxes, and at this point, because they can't be recounted, opening the boxes will entail us looking at the, quote, 900, let's say there's 900 votes that were cast at this precinct. And when we open the box, there's only 300 ballots in there.
Mm-hmm.
We know that those 300 will run through 3 times at that point. But right now, as it stands, because that precinct can't be recounted, we're going to have to stand with the 900 votes, even though we know there's only 300 in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we need to open up the ballot boxes so that we can see what's actually in there. We can see if it was the opening was done. And so that's why we want to make sure that the certification is done after verification.
Right. And so I know in Georgia, the court has ordered that the Dominion machines be seized and examined. So do you think that a judge will order the opening of the box to reconcile?
Well, I believe that because today the judge ordered the Dominion machine in Antrim County, the county in which there were 6,000 votes for Donald Trump that were switched or moved over to Joe Biden. And it was in the news that it was a glitch. And so Antrim County is a very small county, one of our smallest counties. And they would notice 6,000, and it's a very conservative county. They would notice right away if Joe Biden got 6,000 votes in that particular county, and that is what really prompted the look at, what was going on with Dominion. So what a judge did, we received the Trump campaign received permission to go to Antrim County, to come to Michigan and go to Antrim County and seize the Dominion software code and run it, look at it, explore it, and they did. They're there tonight.
So they have access to Georgia Dominion machines and Michigan. Because I believe
they do. They have. I know that Michigan, the Antrim County Dominion software machine, they do have access to that today.
Okay.
So they're examining that today. I'm not sure about Georgia, but I do know that they're there right now as we speak, still working on that.
Oh, that's going to be revealing, right?
It has already been revealing. We've been getting some updates within the Republican channels that it is significant. It will actually change some of the down ballot elections, and so that's what was significant. That some of the down ballot elections, your little county commissioners, your townships, all of that can change because it was flipping, I believe, Republican votes. I'm not sure if it was scheduled to just do Joe Biden, Donald Trump, but it was definitely giving a fractional vote, just so you'll know. When you voted for, according to what they had gotten from Dominion programmers, Joe Biden's vote was 1 vote, and a vote for Donald Trump was like was 1%, and Donald Trump was 0.67%.
Oh, okay. So this is that weighting business. So you're this,
correct.
Yeah, let's go over this a little bit. So you've gotten information that the malware algorithm or malware in now, is this in one machine or one county exactly? Do you know?
This is where they're at in Antrim County. We are asking for the software from Wayne County, where Detroit is.
And
so this is just one county, but we believe, and we were told, that the algorithm
I think it's malware.
Which the 6,000, the malware. It could be. You're right. It
Yeah.
could be the malware.
Is
was
waiting.
part of that did the switching. Yeah, it was in fractions.
Right.
So the whole vote versus a fraction of a vote, and they were showing the fractions of votes. It used to be very easy. 5 people vote, you get 5 votes.
There are no fractions in voting because there's no fraction people. Yeah. So you know this definitively that they're weighing the votes differently. If they're for Biden, they get a full point, and if they're for Trump, they get less than a full point. You know that for sure?
I know definitively that we were told this. So that's what I was informed and updated, that it is a fraction of a vote. One of the people who is part of this in Michigan, not part of the Trump campaign, but a former Senator Patrick Holbeck, he is literally a rocket scientist and has done worked with NASA, done a certification in computer engineering and the like. He's just a genius. He was at the TCF Center. They were looking at cables and modems. The tabulators are not supposed to be connected to the internet. There was no need for them. Some of them were. He has evidence of that, that they were connected to the internet and providing information. There was no reason for a tabulator to be connected to the internet. It should not be. It should be hack proof. And so you plug it in. It does not need Wi-Fi. It doesn't need to have an Ethernet cable or anything like that. It is not supposed to be like that. But they have found evidence of that, and they have the evidence of the cheating and the illegalities there.
Well, that changes the whole ball game.
It does.
Yeah, that changes.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, there's your evidence, folks. Okay, and if they have this definitive proof that Biden votes were weighted more heavily than Trump votes, that ends the game, because those machines. Go ahead.
Yes, but my lawsuit is requesting, my lawsuit before the Michigan Supreme Court removes 500,000 illegal ballots cast, period. And it's before you even get to the absentee ballots. They mailed out ballots to people, or more than 300,000 people, who did not request it. While they voted, they cannot just mail a cold ballot to people to get them out to vote. And this is what the Democratic Secretary of State did.
Well, I know in Wisconsin, there is a state law that says one must, if they get an absentee ballot, there must be an accompanying application for that absentee ballot. But
That's
other
state, the same in Michigan, you have to, yes.
Oh, you have, because I know some of the other states entered into a consent decree with the state, like in Georgia, Stacey Abrams and the governor, they changed the requirements. In Pennsylvania and in...
The only people who can change the requirements are lawmakers, and our legislature is controlled by Republicans, and they did not get any agreement to do that. They know that. That is what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they want to extend the deadlines of the Secretary of State. They wanted to extend the deadlines with no statutory authority. The executive branch is not the legislative branch.
Oh,
This is
exactly.
basic civics.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't know that. And so, in other words, it would be ruled, all those ballots would be ruled unconstitutional because the state legislature.
500,000.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And that's the end of Michigan for Biden. Just with my lawsuit, it's the end of Michigan for Biden. And with the evidence of the fraud there.
but you have to you have to find a judge in your state, federal or state, that is going to go along with that argument, because these liberal judges don't necessarily go along with that. Okay, so
correct. The evidence that we have presented to the Michigan Supreme Court, because it has gone now to the Michigan Supreme Court, is based on, is it true? And is it true? Is this evidence compelling? Is it true? Because if you treat certain people, because in Michigan the constitutional argument, and in every state, the Supreme Court does not deal with criminal charges. The Supreme Court does not deal with the other types of suits that are not based and founded in the Constitution. And the question then becomes equal protection under the law. That is the constitutional argument for my case and for the president's cases before the court.
No, I think it would be a due process. I think it would be a due process clause. The equal protection.
Could be both.
Yeah.
Equal protection means that I did not receive a ballot in the mail. I had to follow the law and request one, while others, more than 300,000, did not have to request one.
Right. Okay.
And that is where Democrats, because they found Democrats, and they just sent them ballots.
Right.
These were 300,000 Democrats sent ballots.
Right.
So some Democrats received the ballots without requesting it. And Republicans had to follow the law as written.
Right.
And so that violated my right for these 300,000 people to get it. Now, if they mailed out all the absentee ballots like that, it would be still a violation of Michigan law.
Right.
But at least it would not have the
equal protection
with the constitutional question.
It would be maybe substantive due process, because voting is a fundamental right. But the issue is, will
Correct.
your case get to the United States Supreme Court? Because how do you think the Michigan Supreme Court is going to handle it? How will they? They're dragging
right now, the Michigan Supreme Court is slow walking. We call it slow walking. Yes, they're dragging.
Yeah.
They're hoping it goes away, but they're going to have to address it. The issue right now is if the legislature is going to act on the evidence that we presented, the Supreme Court may have to weigh in sooner or later. They're probably going to have to go in sooner. So what we delivered on Friday was a summary of our Supreme Court, the 500,000 ballots that we believe should be removed from the ballot total. But these 500,000, and they're not necessarily Biden and Trump ballot. We're not concerned about that. These are fraud, and these need to be removed. And as a result of this is fraud, this needs to be removed. We want to let the vote settle because we know these are wrong, and these were done using the Secretary of State's own data records that these people did not request the ballot.
So what
that was the biggest thing.
So what do you
it on the state legislature?
Yeah. So what do you anticipate your state legislators doing exactly?
So we are sharing with them that we want a forensic audit. We want to take control of we want them to validate what we said in terms of asking the Secretary of State to come in and subpoenaing her and asking her to give an account whether or not 300,000 plus people received a ballot from her office without requesting an application. And she can say yes or no based on the records. She'll have to provide that to the legislature, and based on that, that will be the first 300,000 that they can deal with. That they will decertify the election.
Well,
And
do you think your state
not be able to
legislators have the chutzpah to decertify? Because I'm thinking this is about having the balls to actually decertify. You think they have what it takes
Well,
to?
they have sufficient information based on the witnesses that they've heard, which is separate from my lawsuit. So the witnesses that they heard from the TCF Center, the absentee ballots, the fraud there that we know of, and the whistleblowers, the Dominion programmer, and all of that. They have that information. They have the president's attorneys that came in, Giuliani and Jenna Ellis, that flew in and testified, and they have my lawsuit. So they have at least 3 points of reference with respect to fraud in Michigan, and that they need not certify. They need to decertify this election.
Yeah, but
The
will they?
Wayne
But
County
will
Board
they
of
do it?
Canvassers-
Will they do it? Is the
Yes, I believe they will.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that they are empowered at this point with compelling information and people who can articulate the issues. One of the things that people enjoyed about my presentation is that I tried to explain the process
Yeah.
and where the vulnerabilities are and where the illegal, the curing of the ballot, the curing of the ballots and explaining that process and explaining the process of when ballots, the law. A lot of the lawmakers do not look at the election law. They have an election committee, and those individuals, the former Secretary of State that I worked for, is now a senator. She was elected senator after leaving office after 8 years of being Secretary of State. She's a sitting senator. She's over the elections committee for the Senate, but everyone in the Senate is not well versed on.
Oh, Linda, I gotta go. I'm gonna have you back on. You hear my music. I'm gonna have you back on when we have some good news. I appreciate you being a guest on the Naked Truth Report. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye. That was Dr. Linda Tarver, and she has a lawsuit. We'll be back next week. We'll probably be talking about this again, right? Join me next week on the Naked Truth Report. I'll see you then. Bye. Oh, I'm gonna start like Christmas music now. The holidays. Okay, bye.